thanks to our friends at Broadband Networks for inviting me, and thank you for coming. Really, intent is to communicate what we're doing and how we might partner with you in the future. My sense is you probably know us as largely a Wi-Fi company. The word Wi-Fi in my company is spoken probably every millisecond these days. Our intent, however, is that maybe 3 years from now, the word Wi-Fi will continue to be spoken in the hallways and in our company at Plume, but probably a little less. And my belief is that within 5 years or so, we probably are not going to speak the word Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. We realize that the real value in the company and our value proposition to our customers is actually not just Wi-Fi, but the entire platform that enables our customers to offer where we think the industry is going, these smart home services. So today, I admit, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, Plume was a Wi-Fi company. Today, we're not a Wi-Fi company. Wi-Fi, we think, is the infrastructure layer in the home. And if you want to offer these set of services in the home, you must, as the operators, you must own that Wi-Fi experience because it's effectively the network in the home. Operators to this day largely think about offering services that's attached to the pipe. People say, bring broadband to the home. That's usually the starting point. And then they say, well, what else can I sell you? The world is changing. The world is going to be upside down in our view, where we will lead with services in the home. And then broadband, somebody will bring me the bits to the home. What you're going to be monetizing moving forward is going to be less, I believe, about the bits, but more about the services that are in the home and your ability to give the consumer a unified experience. So that's kind of the theme of my talk. A little bit about our scale. The reason I'm going to mention a lot of this data is to give you some confidence that I'm not just pulling this out of the air. We have about 130 million contracted households today. We're not live in 130 million homes, but I expect within the next couple of years, we're going to be delivering some sort of service over the Plume platform in 130 million plus homes. We're adding many, many more customers. Our go-to-market is largely through ISPs. Companies like you. From the beginning, we didn't try to become a B2C company. I would love to be a B2C company, but you guys know this much better than I do, that it's an expensive proposition to build a consumer brand. Maybe one day we'll get there. EO was telling me that maybe Plume will be a brand. One day I said, well, maybe in 10 years or so, people might recognize us. But you people who have the consumer, there are small brands, there are big brands. Our view is we should curate these services. We should provide all sorts of tools and push them through people who are already touching the consumer. Yeah? So our Comcast, as you probably know, is the largest operator in North America. They have about 25 million broadband subscribers. All of their Wi-Fi related services are delivered over the Plume platform, and I will show you the kind of services that they're delivering. In Canada, we have 4 out of the top 5 operators as Plume customers. Bell Canada is the largest, then the Rogers. Then it's TELUS, who's not a Plume customer yet. And we have Shaw Cable, Videotron, and Cogeco also is a Plume customer. In Europe, in terms of fixed broadband, the 2 largest operators are Vodafone and Liberty Global. Liberty Global has sold some of their properties to Vodafone, so we were a little lucky. Liberty Global was a customer first. They just happened to sell some of their operations in places like Germany to Vodafone. So we shifted broadband subscribers from one customer to another. Good news for us is our pricing with Vodafone was better than Liberty Global, so we kind of got lucky. So they're the 2 largest players. With Liberty Global, we're live in the UK. And about 4 or 5 million homes are live in the UK, and it's It's expanding, and soon we will be pretty big in Switzerland, I think, with them. And then we have a very strong partnership with Samsung. They are the world's largest consumer electronics company. Their focus is largely B2C, so we're going to really leverage that relationship to expand Plume into there. Okay, just to give you a sense of scale. All right, let me show you some data on that forms the basis of what we learned. Hopefully I'll have some credibility with you by way of that, and then talk about where we're going next. I could have picked any day. This was, the presentation was in May, so I picked Mother's Day. What happened? This is kind of, on that day, what happened at Plume, or I guess the Plume Cloud. On that day, we had 8 million Wi-Fi nodes. We touched them, we managed them, we did something on that day. Yeah. We managed almost 200 million devices on that day. Again, we're seeing everything from the cloud. We mined about 459 terabytes of data on Mother's Day. We optimized the performance, there's the backhaul and all of that, in 6.9 million homes. Maybe some homes we didn't touch, maybe there was no reason to respond. We activated on that day 21,000 new homes came online. So we're past that rate now. We're adding maybe 35,000 new homes are getting activated every day. We registered about 740,000 new devices, devices that we hadn't seen. Devices are the connector. On that day, we added 2,560 what we call open sync nodes. These are devices that may not be the Plume pods, but other gateways and other devices with open sync. I'll talk about open sync. We ingested 3 terabytes of new data that day into Amazon. We answered about 19,000 this is from one of our customers, I won't name who. There's the operational aspects and so on. They write queries, or we make there's a deep level of API integration with various backend systems of our customers. We answered 19,000 API calls, provisioning API calls that day. And we answered 25,000 application API calls on that day. They queried 1 trillion rows of data from the Plume Cloud on that day. And we steered, we move things around, we do roaming and that kind of stuff on 16.8 million Wi-Fi devices on Mother's Day. We take a lot of measurements from the field, figure out what's the interference, what's going on. There's a lot of measurements taken, gets up to the cloud, things get computed, pushed back down, the policies are in the cloud. 662 million measurements were taken on that day. Just some of the things we do is change channels. 8.3 million Wi-Fi channels were changed on Mother's Day. Then there's an impact on call-in rates and truck rolls. Our customers are obsessed about the rate at which people call. I don't know what the numbers are in Switzerland, but in North America, the number of incoming service calls equals about 6% of the total number of broadband subscribers per month. So it's about 0.2% a day. That doesn't mean 6% of the people call. It's the number of calls is 6% of the, and 19% of those calls, the data tells us, translates to what we call truck rolls. Somebody has to go out and visit the home. In the US, every call is $7 to $10. Every time Comcast answers, it costs them $7 or $10. Every time they send a truck out to fix something, it's $75 up to $300, depending on how long the technician was out there, right? So The Plume impact, this is data from Bell. It's actually quite similar from Bell and Comcast. We reduce in homes that have Plume and that are monitored using our Haystack platform, we're reducing incoming service calls by about 50%, 50. And the truck rolls, 19% of those calls goes into truck rolls, they're being reduced by about 2/3. So I took those data and kind of estimated, which means on Mother's Day, we deflected about 3,500 calls. And 665 trucks that would have rolled out. It probably would not have rolled out, it was a Sunday, but maybe it would have gone out on Monday. That should hopefully give you some confidence that our instincts are relying on some real data. And the other anecdote I'll give you is, in my company, as I mentioned, we worry a lot about Wi-Fi still. And we have subject matter experts on Wi-Fi, people like Bill McFarlane and so on. We have PhDs who know a lot about Wi-Fi and physics and propagation and modeling and simulation and all of that. But I have to tell you, people in my company, in our company, who develop the most powerful algorithms to help steer devices and figure out how we should respond to this condition versus that, know nothing about Wi-Fi. These are all kids out of Stanford, data scientists that know how to look and learn from data. That's the reason why I was saying we're starting to forget about the physics. Like we have these test houses, we used to go testings. We don't do that anymore. We just throw it out in the field. There's just so much data. Yes, sometimes from a physics perspective, you want to get that extra 1 dB of channel gain or something, right? Yes, that's helpful, but that may not be the most important element. The most important element, for example, in optimizing Wi-Fi for devices, we learned, is to understand the behavior of the specific device. And what I mean by that is we've learned, for example, that an iPhone 10 behaves very differently than a Samsung Galaxy S9 when you're trying to steer it. Whether they respond to the various Wi-Fi steering mechanisms or protocols like 802.11k, V, R, right? So you can't just treat a device as a station, right, or a connected device. Every single one is different. The way, iPhone likes to hold on a little bit longer, so if you're going to kick it off, you need to take that into account. We've also learned, only by just looking at the data, that one of the ways we steer devices when they don't listen to us is we blacklist them from the pods that we don't want them to talk to, right? So if iPhone doesn't do what we say, we just basically tell the pods, ignore this iPhone, so it can only go to one of them. You would think that's pretty clever. Well, guess what? After you've blacklisted the iPhone 3 times, it blacklists us. It blacklists the network. Then it doesn't connect anymore, right? iPhone didn't tell us this, right? Apple didn't tell us this. It's not published. We just learned this. We learned it. Somebody realized, hey, guess what? Every time, after 3 times we blacklist the device, an iPhone model XYZ, it doesn't connect anymore. Then people go crazy. You see what I mean? So we're kind of going, stop blacklisting iPhones, because sooner or later, Apple turns around and says, buzz off. You see what I mean? So these are the kind of things, 'cause a lot of people, trying to kind of solve the Wi-Fi problem. People have said, look, moving things to the cloud is too slow. You can't respond fast enough. There are people who are trying to do things with a lot of compute on the ground. It doesn't work, because you can't store these policies. There isn't enough compute and storage in the devices. So yes, you can. That's kind of traditional physics and math approach. We're taking more of a data approach. Yeah? So that's just another example. We also learned the same thing on Roku. Roku boxes, we looked at it, we go, oh, it's a video sort of set-top box. You would want to serve it a 5 gigahertz channel, good. But sometimes it's for whatever reason you want to serve the 2.4 gigahertz channel. But in any case, in 5 gig, we realized it doesn't connect. That if you serve it an 80 megahertz channel on 5 gig, Roku doesn't connect. It only responds to 40 megahertz channels. Who would have known? It's not on there. It's a Broadcom silicon in there. Broadcom doesn't tell them. Roku is not a Wi-Fi company. They just bought a piece of silicon. They don't know this. So a lot of the customers are calling them and saying, my device doesn't work, because some routers don't know. You see what I mean? So these are the policies, and understanding the device behavior become really the key competitive advantage. We've taken that understanding of the device behavior, now we've turned that into a security product. You realize that AI security thing, it's really not intended for, let's say, laptops and these devices, because they're relatively speaking secure, but the $19 camera that you just bought from China with open ports, this and that or the other, you can't install a piece of software in them. The only way to secure them is from the network side. And the only way to secure them from the network side is to understand their behavior. Which IP addresses they're talking to, what kind of data they're sending up and down, what time of the day. We learn this behavior, and then when something looks strange, we take action. Yeah? So that's all kind of a symptom or a benefit of having all this data, because if you're going to do anomaly-based detection, which is what we're doing, you want to avoid false positives, because the consumer will get upset if we shut down the camera. Maybe it's a baby cam or something like that. If there's nothing wrong with it, it hasn't been compromised, and the only way to avoid false positives, or the people who will avoid most false positives, will be the people who see more data. So you understand now. So we think our security solution today is unmatched. We're not perfect. We're still learning and so on. Every once in a while, we do things we're not supposed to. But we alert the consumer and all of that as well. Okay? Where are instincts taking us? So it's probably not, this is not unique to North America. I mean, our European customers say the same thing. What the internet service provider community has been selling to your consumers largely has been voice video data. And then also there's the mobile. That's been the kind of the traditional set of services. Here's what's happened. I looked at some data. This was back in May again. These are the net new ads from 1Q17 through 1Q19 by Comcast, Charter, and AT&T combined. Minus 2.8 million voice subscribers. They lost 2.7 million video subscribers. Broadband is going up. I don't know if that's any different here. Voice is declining, video is declining, broadband subscriptions are going up. These are a couple of customers, the large customers I had looked at. When you looked at the service mix, back in 2014, triple play, voice video data, was about 2/3 of their subscriptions. Now it's almost 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. This is increasing. That's really largely broadband. And these are shrinking. Why is that important? You guys know this better than I do. There's a direct correlation with churn and the number of services your customers are buying from you. This is a problem. If they're only buying one service, this is some of the large customers I won't name, they're churning at a rate greater than 25%. Triple play customers I think they're churning at 12, 13%. These are annual churn rates. See what I mean? As the behavior goes up, people are buying less products. We just want to offer people more and more services. And that's where our instincts really took us. We're saying, on top of voice video data and mobile, why don't we provide our customers with lots of other services in the home? And that, to us, is the smart home service. Today, we offer adaptive Wi-Fi. our cybersecurity solution, and parental controls and access controls, the ones in white, are what's out there today. Many, many more services are coming. We have a pressure inside the company to try to offer more and more and more to create stickiness in the home. And remember, to offer these services, you don't even really need to be the pipe provider, but most of our customers are, so you're building on top of this. There's a motion detection solution that's coming. I won't talk too much, but we have a very interesting energy management. People just want to know what's going on and what devices are consuming. Remember, we have this tremendous data. We can store a lot of information and learn. Through our partnership with Samsung, we're bringing a very interesting IoT solution. I hate the name IoT for residential applications because I don't know what that really means to the consumer. But Samsung, their SmartThings ecosystem has it's the largest ecosystem in terms of number of devices. So their SmartThings Wi-Fi hub, you may have already heard it, it has Plume in it. It has our software. So any of you, if you have pods, for example, if you wanted to provide the SmartThings Wi-Fi hub to your consumers, they come in, they plug it in. It's just like another pod, except that now you get to access 200-300 devices that Samsung speaks to through that hub. So some people are saying, great, if you have Plume or if you're using, let's say, the Bell Canada, if you're a Bell Canada subscriber, Samsung SmartThings is plug and play. Some others are saying, why don't we just sell them the SmartThings? And all the access, whether it's the light switches and the plugs and the cameras and all of that kind of stuff. So the blue is where we're going to, and white is where we are. Our intent is to add 1 or 2 new services every year, and I want to even accelerate beyond that. Most of our customers are not charging a la carte for these services. It's the whole bundle. The bundle gets fatter and fatter and richer over time. And the intent is maybe over time, the price for the service also goes up. The model there is the Amazon Prime. You know, when I first subscribed to Amazon Prime, it was, I don't know, $79 or something. Now they charge $150 or more, and nobody even thinks about canceling them because there's just so much that's available in the bundle. So rather than, we talked a lot about this, rather than maybe $1 a month for this, $2 a month for that, $4 a month for that, our customers are saying, here's the bundle. In that, let me give you an example. When Bell was the first customer to launch, when they first launched Plume, it was $5 a month, Canadian dollars a month. In August of this year, they increased it to 10. And then they've added additional hardware as well into it with the SuperPods. Our SuperPods are the faster versions of the little ones. That bundle is $15 a month. It's going up. In the UK, we did an experiment. The CEO of Virgin Media on the whole home Wi-Fi thing told me, I said, hey Lutz, I think you could get 12 pounds a month for this. He said, no way, nobody will buy it, it won't work. I said, what do you think it's worth? He said, three pounds. Maximum people will pay 3 pounds. So we said, let's do an experiment. We took different cohorts. We launched the same service at 4 pounds, 6 pounds, and 12 pounds. The sweet spot, more people are taking the 6 pound offering. 4 is actually not doing well, and 12 is okay. So I think we're concluding that probably the price point is somewhere between 6 and 12. So I'm going to try to convince them that they should go nuts at about 8 pounds a month. So these are experiments. I guess he was right. Maybe I was also wrong. But I think my view is over time when we have, some people might resonate with this. A lot of moms resonate with that, and maybe the dads might resonate with this or something else. When there's more, there's a higher probability that the buyer on the other end will resonate with one of them, then you have them. All it takes is that. And then on the hardware, that we design these pods, we don't supply them. usually to our customers. There are a number of ODMs and OEMs. I think in Switzerland, you guys are largely deploying the pod. This was the first generation. It's a dual band 2x2 device. There's actually the next version of this. It's also dual band. We call it Power Pod. It's a 4x4 2x2. It's just faster. And then there's the Super Pod, which is a tri-band device. It's the most compact. I think we have some in the back. So again, and there's more coming. There's an AX version of the pods coming. We're developing a desktop router, effectively a tri-band 4x4 router, which will also be AX. That's also intended for VSB, very small businesses, we're largely have been in the residential side. Early next year, we're going to launch our small business offering. That small business offering obviously will include a very nice Wi-Fi hardware, but also this AI security, home, parental controls, not parental, access controls in the case of, but it all runs off of the same cloud, the same infrastructure. So if you're offering a residential service, offering a business service it's just a different price point. And there's a bit of tuning on the software side, but for us, it's largely the same ecosystem. Okay, so where we're going. Here's an observation we've made. As I mentioned, I come from the communication space. Back in the, 90s, the need of the consumer was around connectivity. We just wanted to get connected. And the driver was just working from home. Remember the dial-up connections and all of that. We just wanted to be connected. Then we shifted into this era of performance. This is where the pipes got bigger, faster, and so on, and that's been largely driven by entertainment and social. That's the era that I think we're still sort of in, but I think we're exiting that era. So it's been, the differentiation has been, it went from connectivity to be productive at home to kind of performance driven by video and all of that. We think, we're betting a lot on this, the future is all about personalization. People want personalized experiences, people want cross-device experiences, people want their lights to talk to this device, whether it's the smart speaker or what have you. People want really personalized. So that's where our company is investing a lot. I think the days of, we talked about voice and video declining, and the pipes, what's been the differentiator? You guys tell me on the pipes. Everybody's been one-upping. I have 20 meg, no, I have 50, I have 100, I have 200. 1 gig now is quite popular. Melita just launched a company out of nowhere in Italy. Fiber network is open. They go in, they bought it from Open Fiber or whatever. 39 euros a month. They're launching a 1 gig service combined with Plume. So my point is, differentiation in broadband until recently has been the size of the pipe. Cable companies have had an advantage over telcos and so on, over copper. Faster, bigger, but I think that's kind of plateauing. Our view is differentiation now is going to become price. And I think for you guys, when the main differentiation of your product is the price, it is a dangerous place to be. So we think you should invest on more and more and more services on top of the pipe. Now, there are certain dynamics in certain geographies. There isn't another option. A lot of times, like Comcast customers. Many Comcast customers are loyal to them, not because they want to be loyal to them, because they have to be loyal to them. There is not another choice. So that game is going to go on for quite a while. But 5G is coming as well now. Our friends at Amazon, as crazy as they might be, I don't know. I think maybe 5 years from now, my broadband might be bundled into my Amazon Prime subscription through satellites or something. They're launching 3,600 satellites into space. So my view is broadband, the pipes, bits, somebody's going to bring the bits to our homes. I think it's the personalized services will become the differentiator. And then in that case, okay, those are the set of services, but how do you beat the competitor? And here's an architectural sort of move that's also happening. We're seeing this, we've been proponents of this for a while. So there, I think the advantage is the CPE, you know, the connectivity piece. I don't know what it is here, but in our view, it's the refresh cycles are maybe 7 years by the time you need an update to something else. I don't know. It's probably 5 to 10. Sometimes we see boxes in the field that are 10 years old, but let's call it 7 years. The refresh cycle on Wi-Fi is about 3 years. New standards come, people want to see, it usually leads with retail. Netgear will release, they just released an AX thing at $700 or something. It's ridiculous, but every 2-3 years there's some Wi-Fi standard. Wi-Fi refreshes a lot faster. If you couple the two, either you're going to spend a lot of money to replace this to stay up, or you're going to say, no, we're not going to replace that, then you're going to be behind. So this is disaggregating. There's a beautiful thing called Ethernet that we can connect between the two. And then obviously the services also have to be decoupled from the hardware. So when I talk about all these services, one of the dialogues we often have with our, let's say, mostly large customers when they want to offer something, there's 4 or 5 different CPEs in the network. This one has an old processor, this one has this Wi-Fi, this one has that. When we launch these services, people say, yeah, but it'll work on the Technicolor box, but it won't work on the Aris box and so on. Okay. Maybe 50% of the network is fine, but then when we go to the marketing people say, I don't want to launch, I'm not going to put all the effort behind advertising and TV slots, yada, 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 if 50% of my consumers can't benefit from this. You see what I mean? So we're trying to decouple. This is disaggregating. I believe that's a smart architectural choice, and this is a clever thing that has to happen where you want to decouple the services from the hardware. And our solution there is we created this piece of software, device level software that's on the pods, but also it goes in all the gateways as well. And when we integrate Plume, it's called OpenSync. We open sourced it. It's free. It's open sourced. It's not Plume any longer. And of course, that's the device level software. And then provisioning of services, curation of services, delivery of services, support of services, updates of services, fixes of services. We try to move as much as we can up onto the cloud. And we run it on Amazon. Everything is very safe, secure. So far we haven't had any issues. But then it's not only about services. So when I talked about a platform, what is Plume really at the end of the day? These are the services we talked about, but when we talk to our customers, there's really 3 main constituents we talk to. There's the product people who want to create and launch new ARPU opportunities, yada, yada, yada. Then we deal with the support group. These are the people who are worried about the operational aspects, the call-in rates, the truck rolls, and customer satisfaction, and so on. Then the third dimension are the marketing people who are saying, okay, how do I market this product? So the Plume platform is not only the services, but also think of it as the front-facing, kind of the front-end services. We give you all sorts of back-end products. There's something called the Plume NOC. It's the Network Operations Center. There's Plume Central, which is a tier 1 support tool. When people call in, the agents can, with permission say, hey, I know this or not. And then there's something called Haystack we haven't released yet. This is a predictive and preemptive support. My fantasy one day is to eliminate this concept of call-in center. You should have call-out centers. You should be calling your customers, not the other way around. I mean this in the context of all of these, if something is going on in whatever service and so on. So this is where, again, we're learning from the data. This is wonderful. We are now ingesting. Our customers give us APIs, like Bell Canada and Comcast are the two examples. We ingest their call-in rates and truck roll data into the cloud. It goes into the same cloud. We're correlating those to the performance of the network on the Wi-Fi side. I am now able to tell Bell Canada that in the next 2 weeks, here's the number of calls you're going to receive. In the next month, this is what's going to happen. And it's a beautiful thing, where we get to now correlate what they told us, this is real data, to what we see, and we say, whenever the combination of X, Y, Z happens from a Wi-Fi perspective, for example, call-in rates tend to go up. Mondays, following holidays is a different thing. Again, it's again, you know that kind of information, but we're now saying, can we predict it? And this is where, knowing what happened is valuable. Knowing why it happened is even more valuable, right? But figuring out what will happen is the most valuable. And that's where, and that's all data. It's all data, okay? And then on the marketing side, we're working on this still. We're not as good as I want to be, but give me another 6 months to a year. This dimension is going to be really, really good as well, where we want to give our customers content, those like little videos and so on. But also lead gen, we can identify those customers, they're all related. It's all running off of the same set of data. Analytics, the device statistics and so on, you might want to know. I don't know if you're subscribing to Plume IQ. You guys probably see it, right? Monthly, everybody should, because we pull some interesting sets of data. It's all for free. But you would be able to query and say, in your network, what's the propensity of, iPhones versus Galaxy S9s and yada yada. There's a lot of useful information that can be used for marketing and targeting purposes and so on. So that's all aggregate data. So we're creating this new category. We just made it up, but I think this is this whole consumer experience management, when you think about it as a platform. But CEM, if you will, we think is an emerging category, because it's all about experience, and that's our intent. Boiling all of that, what are we trying to do for you? As I mentioned, as voice, video, the service set is changing. We think that the competitive advantage of one ISP versus the other, versus the next one in the same area moving forward, is going to reside in your ability to offer new services and applications to them faster than the competitor. So we think time to market is a big deal. We think you shouldn't be afraid of doing firmware updates. You shouldn't be afraid of, you shouldn't be worrying about, will it work on this box? And so decouple the services from the hardware, move as much as you can to the cloud, which we think that gives a time to market advantage, which we believe is a key. We want to unify through a common data set. I mentioned that experience platform. Everybody, whether creation of new services or support or marketing, you want to see that. You want to see everything through this common. That's effectively the glue moving forward, right? So we, Plume, are investing a lot in our data infrastructure. The third one, probably the most important, is scale. We've learned, for example, that 10,000 homes is a different challenge than 100,000 homes, which is a different challenge than 1 million or 100 million homes. It's kind of exponential. Why is that relevant for you? You might say, yeah, but I'm a small operator. It's totally relevant, because the learnings that I get from whatever devices if we're working together, learnings that I get from Vodafone or Comcast and all of that, those optimization of algorithms and all of that, they're used to optimize your customer. So you are very interested, you should be very interested in Plume's ability to scale as big as possible. We see more, like I said, there's 130 million subscribers that will be maybe in the next couple of years, they'll be live. So those are, each one of our customers, we actually run one massive cloud, and learnings we take from the Comcast network about some device performance, we apply it to your network or your customers. I even have this fantasy one day that, when like iPhone or whatever, iPhone just released iPhone 11. Usually, I don't know, they sometimes release them in Australia first, in the time zones, in Sydney, people get them first. Can you imagine an environment? Assume I'm in 10, 20 million homes in Australia. People wait in line, I don't know, Apple store opens, they go in, the first, 10,000 people, 20,000, 50,000 people bring the new iPhone home. Yeah? They connect it immediately to Wi-Fi, they're doing things. Our fantasy, perhaps, is by the time the phone is released in California, 12 hours later, we've already learned the behavior of that device. Our algorithms have already been tuned to deal with, actually iPhone 11, it's sticky to 200 milliseconds instead of 100 milliseconds. You see what I mean? Because Apple doesn't release any of this. They don't tell us ahead of time. We just have to look at it. Again, don't take it literally, but these are the kind of things that are possible. So by the time the sun sets on the other end of the world, maybe we've already learned devices and so on. It's just an example of the value of scale. Because I think oftentimes, we come from Silicon Valley, people are always, we're trying to beat each other to be first. What really matters, in my opinion, is not really first to introduce that product, it's the first to scale. First company that can really scale it is the one who really wins. Do you remember Facebook when there was MySpace and a bunch of other stuff? They were all about equivalent products, right? For whatever reason. First to scale is big, so we spend a tremendous amount of time in my company. Everything is about scalability. Can we find the leverage point? We also believe adopting an open platform approach is very key. We think at my company there are lots of smart engineers, but we're not the only smart people in the world, right? So we want to leverage other people's innovation, and it only helps us. That's the reason why we open sourced our device level software. There's a lot of proprietary stuff in there that we developed. We just gave it away about a year ago at the Broadband World Forum in Berlin. Some people couldn't figure out what Plume was up to. They said, they're giving all their secret sauce. Yeah, there's some secret sauce in there, but people are now writing applications on top of OpenSync. We've already had 4 or 5 developer conferences, small, we call them academies. Our device level software team is in Slovenia, in Ljubljana, and we hold these sessions, and they're just growing and growing and growing. Another example, in order to call something a platform, we think 2 things need to happen. One is you need to be able to offer more than one service. We're doing that now. We used to have Wi-Fi, now we have parental controls, we have security and all of that. The second thing is third parties should be able to offer products on that platform. This Wi-Fi motion application I mentioned, it's actually not ours. The platform, it's being introduced over our platform, but it's a little company in Canada, a company called Cognitive, a bunch of smart PhDs. They have developed some algorithms. We look at the RF waves on Wi-Fi and so on to figure out if there's a person or a dog in that room. All those algorithms are theirs, but they came to us and said, hey, can you integrate our software into your SuperPod so that we can do this Wi-Fi motion detection? We said, we can, but why don't you open source it as part of OpenSync? Because if you open source it, now those 130 million subscribers who will get Plume will also have your software. Then we have an API, our cloud talks to their cloud. Their algorithms, all proprietary, they run there. But everything they're offering comes through the Plume platform. So we're kind of, in this case, we're sort of the app store, if you will, and they're an app. More and more services are coming. People are really taking OpenSync quite seriously and writing applications on top of our platform. Why is that good? It's good for you guys because more and more people are going to create the circle. Plume's going to come up with a bunch of apps, but we're not going to be the only ones coming up with apps. So more stuff people invent, throw as part of OpenSync, more services you can offer to your customers to create stickiness. And finally, it's all about experiences, as I mentioned. These personalized experiences is where we think the world is going. It's gone from connectivity to performance to now personalization and these experiences. And in that context, we kind of see ourselves as this, people say, well, what are you at the end of the day? We kind of think of ourselves as this experience service provider behind you guys. So that's kind of the overall intent. Hopefully that was helpful in kind of not only telling you where we were, but where we're going. In my view, journey has just started. It's been almost 5 years now, but we think there's something big happening here, and Plume wants to be the leader in this space. We're committed to invest, and we're investing pretty heavily in this. It's about 200 people working around the clock, and guys like me live on airplanes. So, does that give you a good sense of what's going on?
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.